This episode of the Fandalorian podcast is brought to you by the Adla Real Estate team. If you live in New York, anywhere between Manhattan and Montauk, and are looking to buy or sell, you need to call the Adla Real Estate team. This real estate company is run by a husband and wife duo that, in addition to being real estate agents, are also a public school teacher and a police officer. It is a family-run business that gives you the attention and care you need when you're about to make one of the most important decisions of your life. And I know from experience. Also, if you mention that you are a fan of the Fandalorians, they will be able to get you up to $2,000 back at closing. It doesn't matter if you are buying or listing. So, if you are buying or selling anywhere from Manhattan to Montauk, call the Adla Real Estate team at 631-384-6372. Or check out the website at adlarealestateteam.com. Mention the Fandalorians and save today.
All right, welcome back, class. On today's episode, we are joined by teacher and author David Taylor II to discuss fantastic forecasting and play two truths and a lie about the upcoming 2024 television season. All this and more in a It's Finally Clobbering Time episode of the Fandalorians. Teachers by day, nerds by night.
That is the bell. Class is back in session. Welcome to the Fandalorians podcast, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night, proud part of the Unfiltered Studios podcast network. This is the #1 public school teacher pop culture fandom podcast in the country. Give you all the latest news in the world of entertainment, lively discussion, matters of pop culture and fandom. I did the best I could. I think I like that. I like how that went. We get new listeners all the time, especially when we have a guest. Sometimes they pull up with people. Let me introduce us. My name is Mr. Richardson, 4th grade teacher, and the man who didn't do any research on our guest until the last possible second. Guys, I waited to the end. I did. DT's here. I waited to the end, McDonald.
You're not supposed to admit that.
Yeah, no, it's true.
You ever Google yourself and you find like two things? You know, when we Google our guests, we're like, wow, there's like, you have to go to the third page of Google to finally
It's a lot. It's a lot. So see him on the Twitters all the time, out there, the X or whatever you want to call it. You know, and it's so funny.
It'll always be Twitter to me.
It'll always be. We can't we got to go old school. We got to recognize where we came from. So I see him on there. He has great points, talks about all the content we talk about. And I was like, I think I tried a long time to get him on the show. Things didn't work out. He said he's going to come on. Great. Even leading up to this, I didn't really dig into it. I even texted him one time. I said, I couldn't find his name on the page. I only know the icon from Twitter. He says his name. I'm like, all right. And then we keep going. I'm like, well, let me just look and see. And I clicked on it. I'm like, oh, I'm looking at the accolade, all the things up there. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's done so much stuff. And I didn't even know his name. I felt bad. Then we had a guest recently from the comic shop, and he hadn't done a podcast before. And we purposely, the three of us, don't always remember if there's a new guest who's never done a podcast. We got to make sure they're comfortable, because some of them come on so nervous and we don't think to say anything because we're comfortable. So I asked him, I've done a podcast, and he goes, and before he responded, Charlie, you send me a YouTube video of him on a podcast. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's done 1,000 podcasts. And then he responds, I've done podcasts. I'm like, I felt stupid. The whole thing's done. I didn't do my research. I researched for this episode, but I didn't research the guest, though. I'm a terrible person.
Shame.
I know, it's sad. I blame myself. Co-teacher with me, high school teacher, and the man who has to give props to Nickelodeon, Mr. McDonald.
Did you guys watch the Super Bowl at all? Have you ever heard of the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
heard of it.
Taylor Swift vehicle, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we heard of it. What
but
happened?
I didn't realize until the next day, because it was all over TikTok and Twitter, that since the show was on CBS, Nickelodeon had its own feed. And it was hysterical. Did you guys see any of the clips?
I saw some of the stuff. I liked Dora the Explorer coming on to explain all the rules. I thought
I want that in every football game now.
Yeah.
And then they had SpongeBob and Patrick like live reacting.
Yeah, in the announcer's booth. I actually saw like a background behind the scenes of how they did it.
Yep. And I was just like, that's so clever. And
that young
remember
kids.
when Toy Story tried that whole Andy's room thing and it kind of came and went?
Yeah, for that game they played overseas. They played
Yeah.
those.
And I got to tell you, man, Nickelodeon, they nailed it.
Shout out to Nickelodeon, doing the Lord's work over there. My other co-teacher, the man who is listening to Kristen Hanna's latest book, Mr. J.
Yes.
What book is this?
Well, I've listened to The Nightingale. I've
Right.
listened to The Four Winds. I've listened to The Great Alone. And now, just released this February, The Women. And it's 1960s, 20-year-old nursing student Frankie McGrath voluntarily enlists in the U.S. Army to be deployed into Vietnam because women can be heroes too. And for those of you familiar with Kristen Hanna books, you know it's going to be a heart-wrenching story. But for those of you that are not, it's not like heart-wrenching in the Hallmark kind of way or like MASH for this setting. It's more like Apocalypse Now or the movie Platoon. It's definitely a good listen.
How many hours, Charlie?
15 maybe.
So for those that don't know, Mr. G's in his car a lot and has plenty of time to listen to and from work. I'm going to check that one out. I actually wanted to check that out. And joining us today, author of comic books, children's books, and fantasy novels. And yes, I just found this information a little while ago. And teacher, David Taylor II, DT. How you doing, sir?
I'm fine. How you guys doing?
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so
Well,
much.
it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're a teacher joining us, teachers. We're going to ask you some questions, put you on the spot real quick. Now, we see you do a lot of stuff because when I Googled it, I had to keep scrolling down a lot of things. What are you working on now? Are you working on anything right now
Oh,
that you can tell us about?
goodness, you have no idea what I'm working on right now.
Oh, I want to know.
I'm finna do a big launch once I get everything together. And I'm talking about Air July levels of changing the game. Well, I've already released some of my comics, but I've got a team coming up. And so I'm going to drop that as soon as I get all the elements together. But yeah, so I'm going to be all over the place when that's happening. So I got that coming up. And then doing more conventions this year because I do a lot of book signings and a lot of meeting my fans. I have my fans following me now, so I'll let them know about my schedule to come to the book signing. So I've got more cons I'm doing this year. And, I also do music and I got more stuff coming up with that. So yeah, I have a lot of stuff coming up this year. But the big one, the geek one, is when I drop this book. And I'm so excited. I can't make you understand how excited I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about it or you can't? Because now I'm excited listening to your excitement.
Anything I say will be a spoiler, but
okay, that's fine.
Is it a continuation of that comic
trailer.
series that you your book that I saw?
No, my book Nephilim Wars. No, that's a different thing. And then
Okay.
I have another book out called The Creole Kareto, and that's a combination Japanese Greek word that means cold sword. It's about a bunch of heroes on a fire planet, and they all have ice powers. So I got that going. But this one I'm talking about here is just incredible. And anyway, I just have to wait to let y'all see it.
I know.
A spoiler.
Please come back on and talk about it, and we're gonna buy it and read it.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're gonna ask you a teacher question here.
Mm-hmm.
Who was your favorite? Did you have a favorite teacher growing up?
My personal teacher favorite of mine was probably Mrs. Lavoie in second grade because she encouraged a lot of creative stuff. We had to draw and write and think a lot. And I have loved Greek mythology since I was a very small child. Since then, I've studied other mythologies, but that was the first one I really fell in love with. I was fascinated by all of the concepts. And then one time in fourth grade, we actually had to cosplay the Greek pantheon. And so I was Hermes, or Mercury is the Roman name. And so I still have that picture somewhere, made little wings, put them on my boots, had my little helmet, and my little toque. It was so cool. So I still remember that because I haven't, been in second grade in a minute. So just when, you only have a short amount of time in your life where you have the innocence of a child.
Yes.
And that is a luxury and a privilege that Western people or first world countries tend to take for granted. Because if you grow up in a war-torn country or a poverty-stricken country, you don't even get that. Life hits you hard and fast as a child. But here, so far, we have the luxury of having some years where we can kind of be a kid. And so if you get that experience in elementary school like I did, it kind of sets the stage for learning and growing and all that. And so Miss Lavoie did that for me. And she was more like a mom. She was more like her children than her students.
Those are some of the best teachers, Mr. J.
Jimmy, you should steal that cosplay thing right there.
I teach fourth grade, and I like that. And my daughter is obsessed with Greek mythology right now. She'll be 13 in a week or so. But I love that idea. That's a really good idea. All right, so and then going in the comics real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What was your on-ramp? That's my favorite line. What was your way into the comic world? What was your first comic? What was the heroes, the team, the book that really like, okay, this is awesome, and open doors to other things, but like the first one that was put in your hand?
My on-ramp was the Fantastic Four. My father is the one that taught me. So I grew up reading three things. I grew up reading the newspaper, the Bible, and comic books. And my father was the one that got me on all three and taught me to read very, very young. And then he told me he expected that level from now on, because when your father looks at you and you're like 5, that's, a commandment from on high. Yep. So he would take me to the newsstand every week. And I still remember the smell of fresh books, fresh comics, something about it. If you know what I'm talking about,
I do.
The ink and paper, it hits differently.
It hits different. It hits different. So my father would take me that, and we'd go get some food afterwards, and he bought me a bunch of comic books, and I would just devour them. And so first group was a Fantastic Four, and I was amazed. I couldn't articulate it like I can now, but I was amazed at the complexity of what was being presented. The idea of a family that were adventurers, cosmonauts, if you will, and had gotten their powers by accident, deciding to become heroes, except for Ben, where his powers seemed to be more of a curse. So he could either be in the team and stay a big orange rock lumpy thing, or be human but not join in the adventures. And so it was really, really melodramatic and balanced, and I was fascinated by all that. And so that's what got me on, and I couldn't get enough. And once I got hooked on the Fantastic Four, then I asked my dad to buy me everything. So he bought me as much as he wanted to spend,
Yep.
But yeah, that was my on-ramp. And I still love them. It's still my favorite team to this day.
It is mine too. That was my on-ramp as well. That was the one that was put in my hands.
You're going to love the rest of this episode.
Yes. We got a lot to talk about. That was the one that started it for me too, and the same reasons. It was just when I remember first reading, going, wait a minute, they're not wearing masks. Like, what is this? I hadn't seen that before, because the comics I've seen or the heroes I've seen have been on TV, and they were putting on masks and fighting crime and taking the masks off or glasses or whatever. They weren't wearing a mask, and then they were bickering constantly and disagreeing on how to handle situations, just like and that in itself just what drew me in, because families bicker and argue and don't get along for 4 or 5, 6, 7 issues. Like, it's just, and then they get back around. It's just such a good thing, such a great comic. Love it.
Well, DC for the longest time, not so much anymore, and I think it's to their detriment actually. But DC for the longest time considered the hero to be the real person, and the civilian identity was where the hero would hide when they weren't in action. Stan Lee's approach with Marvel and Ditko and Kirby, their approach was regular people that you went to school with, that you knew, that got powers, but their lives didn't get better because they got powers. So it was a completely different approach, at least in the beginning. And so DC was always about springing into action, but Marvel was always about, we got consequences. And I was amazed by both. I loved the high flying, high flying, high powerful, colorful, superhero-y presentation. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, loved that. The JLA, the JSA, loved them, still love them.
Yeah.
With the Marvel heroes, it was the person was the person, and then they got powers, and then it complicated their life more often than not.
I've never thought of it that way, but that's actually like I'm like really thinking about what you're saying about how an approach to going about, creating your superhero and figuring out like the direction that you want to go in. And that's definitely two different dynamics of a character. I like that.
It's just like when you look at
Ben Grimm, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange are all people, and they're people that you know. Then something happened to them, and then they got these powers and they adopted a costume identity, but they didn't stop being who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, that's who you know. You met them, you saw them in action. And you wondered who they were in their downtime, but you didn't really care.
Right.
They were boring.
The comics itself were set up perfectly for that, because I remember reading the real life of the characters works well for the movies. That's why they tried to do it when DC did movies a little bit, because you can't have them in costume the whole time. You have to figure it out. Marvel was already preset for that because they constantly had problems in their lives, and they just turned it into what it was. But I remember reading the comics where this was there before they moved to the medium of television and movies. Spider-Man fighting crime, and at the end can't find where he left his costume or where left his real clothes, lost his wallet. And that was his money he needed for rent. And then he's getting evicted, like by the end of the issue. But he saved the day, saved the city, but he has no money. Aunt May's sick or whatever. There was always some underlying drama that just, despite the fact he could do what he does, it just didn't get better. And they didn't do that as much with DC. They tried to pivot now, but it's a little hard to put that back in. But yeah, I've always been more Marvel than DC for that exact reason, because I felt like I could be those characters, or they could be, like you said, the person next door.
Well, I mean, I always thought it was a good lesson in life, just saying, even for us, like if you get your dream job, it's not going to change you as a person, and your problems are still going to be your problems. And it's the same thing with superpowers. So yeah, I thought that was super cool.
The best with Spider-Man is that it literally changed him when he got his powers, and it cost him his uncle afterwards. And then he went back to being his normal self, which is like he got powers and went to his head, and this is what happens. And that's what happens with people sometimes too. So it's interesting.
Well, other than Captain America as a character kind of has altruism built in.
Right.
That's who Steve Rogers is as a person. But Peter reacted like a 15-year-old would.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He wanted fame and fortune. He saw everything that could do for him, and he wasn't really thinking about the world around him that much. But yeah, there was a terrible price exacted for that attitude, and that's what turned him into a hero. I tell people all the time, I'm like, Natasha Romanoff is not a superhero. She's an assassin and a spy that changed her allegiance. Clint Barton is a carny. He's a carnival worker that got hooked up with some heroes and decided to use his skills for good. The Hulk is a monster. He's a Jekyll and Hyde. He's a Frankenstein. And so the kinds of thoughts and everything about the X-Men being born with powers, there's been a big debate lately on what Stan Lee meant by that and what Claremont did with it. But the whole idea of, even the original X-Men, the whole idea of if you have powers and you can still look normal, that's different from when Hank McCoy becomes a furry blue creature. It's different from Nightcrawler. It's different. It's just, it's just a completely different kind of vibe. It's not the shiny package. It's real life with superpowers added in.
I feel like we're teaching a college class on comic books right now.
I know. I'm like,
you know what?
We should. Just to
We
make
really should.
DT's teaching me right now.
Every week, the Hulk itself, like the Hulk is one of my favorites too, because we talked about this last week on the podcast, or a couple of weeks ago, as in the best origin story or the worst origin story, that kind of thing. Spider-Man caused his own problem. That's kind of he's like has a hand in it. Some of it was accident, but then I think one of the worst has to be the Hulk, because I said it a few weeks ago. He was just trying to do the right thing and help someone who's going to get hurt by a bomb. Tried to be good, try to help. and end up being curse. And if you read the comics, it's even worse than they portrayed in the movie. Like his world was destroyed, and he was just trying to help. Spider-Man was being somewhat selfish, but he's a kid, like we pointed out. But Bruce was just like, oh my God, that guy's going to die. Let me try to help him. And that's what happened. So it's so many different layers to these things. It's incredible. It's well done.
So the moral of the story is don't help anyone.
Yeah, that's apparently not. That may not be the lesson. You may have missed.
Okay,
You're not paying attention in class. Are you paying?
Yeah,
attention?
am I not reading The Forest Through the Trees here?
No, not at all.
Get off your phone. All right. How can you support the podcast? Find my sheet. Sorry. First, you can start by asking your child's teacher if they need anything. Teachers from kindergarten to high school, they always need something. We always need something to end up going into our pockets.
It's always tissues.
It's always tissues. I need a tissue now. I ended up ordering stuff when I got paid last week for my classroom. I'm going to go back next week. And check out the merch. Go to the TeePublic link in the bio of the show. All of our money goes to Laney's Legacy of Hope. That's a nonprofit organization that engages in fundraising activities to provide assistance for families with someone suffering from pediatric cancer. No CO, the money goes straight to them. 100% of our cut from our merch goes to them. So we don't get any money from that because the Fandalorians, we let the kids. We let the kids, helping them out. And if you live on Long Island, you want to check out Red Shirt Comics in downtown Port Jeff for your comic book needs. And for those listeners who don't remember, shop at your local comic shops. Pick up DT's latest thing when it comes out, all of his stuff, plus what's coming out soon. Pick out everything. Get it done. All right, we went through the information. We got stuff to get to, like the Fantastic Four. We're very excited about that. Before that, it's time for the morning announcements.
Fandalorian fans, won't you lend me an ear? I hope this podcast sound is crystal clear. Now listen up, people, I got something to say. These are the morning announcements for today.
All right. The morning announcements are brought to you by Red Shirt Comics. Now, many of you have heard already, the Fantastic Four has been cast. This is a long-awaited reveal, and they revealed it on Valentine's Day in a very, very adorable way. So, Marvel Studios' forthcoming Fantastic Four reboot has found its leading quartet. The Last of Us's Pedro Pascal will star as Reed Richards / Mr. Fantastic. The Bears' Ebon Moss-Bachrach has been cast as Ben Grimm / The Thing. Vanessa Kirby will portray Sue Storm / The Invisible Woman. And Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things will play Johnny Storm / The Human Torch. Now, for those of you who've been living under a rock or maybe been asleep since 1960, let's tell you a little bit about the Fantastic Four. So the Fantastic Four is created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and it debuted in 1961. The team is comprised of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, back then she was the Invisible Girl, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, and Ben Grimm, the Thing. The team gained superpowers during a space mission, becoming Marvel's first family of superheroes. The 2005 film, The Fantastic Four, and its 2007 sequel, The Fantastic Four, The Rise of the Silver Surfer, were originally produced by 20th Century Fox. There was also a 2015 Fantastic Four that everybody kind of just buried. Nobody ever talks about that.
I didn't even type it in here.
So, exactly.
I was like, you know what? I'm not even.
The new Fantastic Four will represent the first time that all four characters will join the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right, guys. What are your thoughts on the casting of the Fantastic Four? DT, you can go first.
My thoughts are, to be succinct, and then we'll get into more detail.
Yes.
The casting announcement didn't do what it was supposed to do, which is supposed to get you excited for the film. It did not. For me, anyway, because you can tell by the way they cast the film what their focus is going to be. If their focus is going to be on a good book-to-screen translation, if the focus is going to be on telling a good story with established characters, casting reflects that. If their focus is on we're going to put some it people in these roles, that's Hollywood think, which is, all we have to do is put popular celebrities in the roles and people will come see it. And no, they won't. That's the same thing Michael B. Jordan said about Fanforstic 2015. He said, yeah, but y'all going to see it anyway. And no, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
And so people, I'm trying to figure out how to get into the subject. People exist on more than one level. Nothing amazes me more than people that have a singular approach to other humans as if we are just a mind, as if we just have irrational mind, as if we are just our bodies, as if we are just those things, because we are much more than that as humans. And so I'm saying that to say that people have a vibe. Actors have a vibe. Many people don't know the difference between a movie star and an actor. An actor is someone that creates a character, disappears into the character, and convinces you for 2 hours that they are that person in that world. A movie star is someone who's basically the same person themselves in every movie. We just like their shtick.
Like The Rock.
Right. That's right. Right. Same person, same character, same everything, every movie.
Ryan Reynolds is like that too, not to interrupt
Very
you.
true.
So Pedro Pascal's, his vibe is wrong for Reed. So what you want to give your audience less things to have to suspend their disbelief for. So with the use of makeup and mannerisms, I hope they make every effort to make him disappear so we can see Reed Richards, but that's not what I'm seeing now. Vanessa Kirby, Sue just looks different in my mind, even though Sue had aspirations to be an actress. So I'm sure she can do it, but Sue's features are different in my head. Sue looks more like Alice Eve or Emily Blunt. And so I have to work harder to see Vanessa as Sue. I only know her from the Mission Impossible films, but I have to work harder in my head because Sue's features with her thing about being invisible, she is less distinct feature-wise. Not that she's unattractive. She's just less distinct, and Vanessa Kirby's features are extremely distinct. So that's what's throwing me off there. With, what's his name? Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. I haven't seen him in anything. He looked a little too goofy to me. You know, once again, I don't know if they started out the comics this way, but eventually the Fantastic Four got explained as their powers being manifestations of their personalities. And what people don't get about Johnny is that Johnny's not funny or goofy. I know we had a lot of comics where he was incompetent and all that. Johnny's characteristic was that he's short-tempered.
Yeah.
He's quick-tempered.
He's a hothead.
Right. He's going to fly off the handle. So if they do that, and in terms of Ben, most of Ben's time as a thing will be CGI or a suit. We'll have to see. I have no doubt that, Eben can pull it off, but I hope they focus on Ben's Jewish heritage. I hope they focus on the bitterness that Ben had all them early years. Ben would just sit in his room and watch TV because he couldn't believe he was trapped in this orange rock body. He couldn't believe he looked like this monster. He couldn't believe it. And so that's one thing the Chickless Evans film focused on well.
Yeah.
What was Ben, wanting to be Ben again and then realizing there was a prize. They did it kind of fast, but at least they focused on it. So I don't get those vibes, but it's just the casting. If the story is there and the makeup and the effects are there, then I think they can pull it off. But I wanted to feel that when they announced the cast, and I didn't feel that at all. I was like, what? I keep looking at Pedro Pascal, and I'm like, what? So.
McDonald, what do you think? I
Well,
have some thoughts too, but
yeah.
What do you think?
Now, Marvel has to nail this, that this movie has to be their next tentpole, because, if they miss out on this, they've got, I don't know how much they've got. I mean, they have the X-Men in this. This will be kind of, I feel like, the next big movies for Marvel. It's because Marvel's kind of been on a downturn. And so the casting to me comes out as pretty interesting because it follows a lot of formulas that Marvel's done before. You look at the first Marvel movie, you look at Iron Man. It's got Robert Downey Jr., who nailed the role, but he was far from an A-lister at that point. And then, just kind of like role players and actors and that just did a good job with their parts. The problem with the Fantastic Four is we all, like DT said, we all kind of know the Fantastic Four much more than we knew the Guardians of the Galaxy, than we knew Iron Man or Thor beforehand. So we have our kind of predispositions in our head. Now, it's no matter who they picked, somebody was going to dislike them. What I thought they did well is they actually did choose some good actors. Like I will tell you, Vanessa Kirby was in The Crown in the first 2 seasons as Margaret.
She was really good.
And she was fantastic. She was in a couple of those Mission Impossible movies. She even did that Fast and Furious spinoff. But I feel like that was like wasting her talents. I think she can do a really, really nice job because Marvel needs to go back to doing what they do well and just casting good actors rather than kind of spectacles. Now, I will agree with DT that Pedro Pascal is kind of spectacle-y. I think they were like, well, he did it in The Last of Us. He did it in The Mandalorian. Let's see if he could just carry a show again. So the only thing they have to have is some sort of baby for him to, shepherd through, the universe. And I guess
Herbie the Brat. Yeah, Herbie.
Yeah, and then they're gonna make $1 billion. But the fact that they casted all of these people who aren't super young tells me that I don't think this is going to be an origin story, which I like even better. One of the things they did with Spider-Man is they didn't really tell the origin story. He already was Spider-Man. We get it. And we'll see, I think the Fantastic Four are famous enough with that we don't need them getting shot in the rocket in the very first scene for us to figure out who these people are. If they get the family dynamic, which I think they can, I think this is going to be very promising.
What do you think, Charlie?
DT, this is not my forte of my fandom of stuff. I just go to some of these movies and I enjoy them. But I will say this, I 100% agree with your take on Pedro Pascal. What little I know of the Fantastic Four and Mr. Reed Richards himself, Mr. Fantastic, I know from what I've seen portrayed in the movies and in the cartoons that they have. I don't read those comics. But Pedro Pascal's character is very like, if I'm thinking of him, the Mandalorian and Joel from The Last of Us, you're right. It's the same character. And I don't picture that as Reed Richards' character. To me, Reed Richards is not necessarily the Tony Stark, but he's the patriarch of this little family going on, not the... I just like Pedro, thinking of Joel in The Last of Us. He's very unwilling and grim and dark and gruff and short and curt. And I don't necessarily think of Reed Richards that I know of is that character. That's my perception of Reed Richards is more outgoing than Pedro Pascal's characters in the past.
I'm going to say a couple things. First, I disagree with Mr. McDonald because that's how I start off every time I speak about everything we talk about on this podcast. I come right out the gate. I think you need to do some semblance of an origin story because I think a lot of people, as I always say, the on-ramp, there isn't one for this. My dad has no clue the origin of this, but he knows Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman. Everyone knows those. You got to do something. You can shorten it up. I have some ideas we'll talk about in a minute, but, we'll see what we can do there. As far as the casting goes, I agree with you guys. The Rock and Tom Cruise play the same person every time. Pedro, his character in Joel is different from Javier from Narcos, and I forget the character from Game of Thrones, Oberyn or something. I forget what his name was. And then whatever the terrible person he played in Wonder Woman 2, whose name was so bad I didn't even bother looking it up because that movie was trash. They were all different. With me in casting, I've reached the age where the casting doesn't bother me as much because I thought Michael Keaton was stupid for Batman. I was wrong. I thought Hugh Jackman for Wolverine would be terrible. Turned out to be okay. The guy from Adla McBeal is Iron Man, and I read comics. What are you talking about? That's not going to work. It worked. Heath Ledger is like the best example of really because he was in Brokeback Mountain like 2 years before. That's the Joker. What are we doing? Turned out fine. I've had plenty time, and there's other times that have been misses, but more times than not, it ends up being somewhat okay if, as DT pointed out, the story works. If the actor can get into the part, if Pedro can disappear into Reed, who is nothing like Joel, Reed to me is always almost absent-minded professor-ish in terms of he's literally focused on one thing and kind of ignores some things around him. Like Ben suffering, sometimes he always missed it and had to be reminded, hey, Sue had to smack him because he's kind of locked in like geniuses sometimes are. And even as a leader,
like he could have fixed Ben if he actually thought about it, but he was so busy with 10,000 other things.
Yeah, or he gets focused on like trying to get an experiment to work and stays in the room and doesn't shave for. And that would be that would be the comedy. They come in the room, Reed's been in the studio, that's the character. And if they
did you just say in the studio, like
he's in the studio. Yeah, he's there. He's got people working on beats. He's there with Dre. Dre comes in. It's the thing. The point is, if he can do that, or if they write it and whoever the director is, I forget, gets him that way, I think he could get himself in the role because his 3 roles I've seen so far, it's been different enough that it could work. Like I said, I've been fooled behind many times by certain worrying about casting. I just don't worry anymore. I got it now. I see a trailer, I'll probably get an idea right there. Oh, that's not going to work. A couple lines. Right now, it's still up in the air for me. I'm not sure. But as DT pointed out, you got to tell a good story. The writing's got to work. It's got to hit. You have to do everything that needs to be done to tell me that this is a family. And I think I can get lost into the role, which jumps to our next question. No, the rumor is Galactus could possibly be the first villain they would face. All right, what do you think of that decision? And would you prefer someone else to face Fantastic Four? I'm just going to keep on rambling. Galactus and Silver Surfer, that kind of thing, that's too big. That's insane. Galactus is like a Thanos lever. He tries to eat the planet. We're not doing that in the first movie. That's a 4-hour film because we have to introduce you to people who we don't know. General, not us mostly. Mr. G. Mr. G doesn't know the Fantastic Four well.
No, when you said going to eat the planet, I'm thinking to myself, Unicron.
Yeah, right. Right. Exactly. So we have to meet the Fantastic Four, understand their origin, explain where they've been, if it's like because he looks a bit older. Get an idea. We need the Ben Grimm, as DT pointed out, being upset about a situation. We need Hothead. We need to get all the characters together, like any story. Give me characters, make me like them or care about them, so I care about the journey. You got to make me care about them fast enough, and then bringing Galactus and Silver Surfer. That's not going to work. You need the character, the villain could be themselves and their issues with each other. That could be the real problem they work through. But you have to fight someone. My guess. Or my hope would be, I would take the Mole Men. Here's why. You need nameless creatures for them to fight. You need someone it can't be Doom who's solo 4 Wars 1. You need almost the whole Avengers where there's like a bunch of aliens showing up. So I thought of the villains that have like a crew that comes with them who aren't really like nameless people to get punched. Like nameless AI kind of things. Mole Man is from underground. He has different creatures that can look all sorts of different ways. Attack in New York City because that's where everything appears to happen. Fine, give me that. Because again, the story is the team, not really who they fight in the first one. If the rumors are true where they end up in the negative zone and the negative zone is like a area where time is different and they get trapped and they come out of it, there's a villain in the negative zone that could escape with them, and he also brings a crew of aliens with him. I can't pronounce his name. I always Annihilus. Thank you. Not one of my favorites. I did like him, but I like some above him. But I did like the negative zone. He could bring a crew. So if you're doing a villain, you need someone that's, I won't say simple, has a bunch of little people that can get beat up by the whole team. You got that team battle thing going on. And then maybe a couple movies down the line, you shift to Galactus because you don't have to build the world. Your world building in this first movie, because no one knows who these 4 people are for the most part, other than some of us, you cannot world build Galactus and Surfer. That's way too much. That's just my.
I call that DCing the problem.
Exactly.
They try to rush through everything.
What do you think, McDonald?
Well,
clearly you agree with me. I'm great.
I agree with more than I was expecting. Let's put it that way. I have a list here of the first several villains the Fantastic Four has ever faced. So yes, the first villain they ever faced was Mole Man. Then the Skrulls, then Miracle Man, then Namor the Submariner. Then it's not all the way until Fantastic Four number 5 that we're introduced to Doctor Doom. Then we get Kurgo, the Puppet Master, Impossible Man, Red Ghost and his Super Apes, the Mad Thinker and his awesome android, the Super Skrull, Rama Tut, who is, Kang, then Molecule Man, Hate Monger, Enfant Terrible, who I have no idea who is, but it takes a long time all the way into episode issue 48 that we get to Galactus. So what I would try to do if I'm Fantastic Four is fighting, you could either make Mole Man the main villain of the first issue, because then you get Ben Grimm as a monster with these other kind of monstrous mole people, and he gets, that's the tension of, I'm just like they are, and what am I doing here, or something like that. I don't know. Or you have them fight Mole Man in the first 5 minutes of the film, much like the best Fantastic Four movie, The Incredibles.
I know you love The Incredibles.
I do. The Incredibles are amazing. But, that's just like the appetizer, if that's the case. But, looking at some of these, you forget, Red Ghost and the Super Apes are pretty cool. I think the Mad Thinker and the Awesome Android would be super fun, especially if, the rumor is that this is going to happen in the 60s. I think all that would be super fun. And I feel like that's the tone that this Fantastic Four has to hit. And so going to Galactus right now, I'm going to agree with Mr. Richardson, is a terrible idea.
DT, do you agree with McDonald? McDonald, first, I just want to say, that point about Mole Man, I totally missed that. Well done. You know what? That's a point for you. I'm giving you a star.
Oh, did this turn into what's that sports show where they give the random points?
Yeah, random points for no reason. DT, what do you think?
I actually have a treatment that I've written for a Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, so you're not allowed to talk about it because they still might pick it up?
No. But
when he gets announced as a screenwriter tomorrow.
So I've thought through a lot of those issues as well, and I definitely agree. Mole Man should be first, like it was in the comics, for all the reasons listed, and also because, okay, this is me trying not to get frustrated for those of you that, since y'all can't see me. Superhero movie is supposed to be about superheroes. I don't know why that's so hard for people. I don't know why that's so hard, but it's hard for folks.
Villains are more interesting.
What'd you say?
Villains are more interesting, at least to the Hollywood writers.
Whatever. It's supposed to be about superheroes, and it's supposed to be how they inspire us and the things that they can do. And that's what people want to see. That's why Winter Soldier was so good. Winter Soldier was not just a good story. It was peak Captain America in action over and over and over again. And we can't get enough of that. And so I agree with the whole idea of having a villain with minions so that the Fantastic Four can cut loose, and non-human minions so they can cut loose. And I agree with all that. The whole idea is their dynamic as a family juxtaposed against their dynamic as heroes. I love the John Byrne run where Reed Richards finally admits out loud that the reason they became heroes without masks is because he knew they would be freaks if they didn't. I love that. I love that. I love that. And so the one thing I will disagree with Donald on is that the Fantastic Four are not the Incredibles. I'm so tired of people saying that. The Fantastic Four are not the Incredibles. They're not funny. They ain't supposed to be funny. When you read them early comics, there's so much weight and so much gravitas and so many adult themes going on that they're not funny. Now, where people got this idea from, maybe it was the Corman movie, I don't know. But for some reason, people got it stuck in their head that this is supposed to be a comedy, superhero comedy. No, it's not.
I didn't say it was a comedy. I just said it had to be fun. I feel like there is a difference there.
Okay, fun. I'll give you. Most of the early MCU was fun, but you felt Tony Stark's pain when his heart started bleeding. You felt him in that cave. You felt his life being threatened. You felt it when, I forgot the name of his assistant, when he died. He said, I'm going to see my family. This was always the plan. You felt it. You felt it when that first armor didn't all the way hold up and he got knocked down. You had visceral moments. You had emotional moments. You had family moments. But it wasn't funny. It had some gravitas to it. And you had plenty of snark, plenty of quips, plenty of stuff from Pepper to lighten up if that's what you want to do. But what I'm saying is not a superhero comedy. is not a, oh, look at us, whatever. It's not that. It's not that. It's a very serious kind of thing, which is necessary if you're going to build to Galactus at any point. And he should be built to like a Thanos level character, just like the MCU did it, that he's the real Phantom Menace, that he's out there and he's coming. And Reed should find out first. And then the weight of that knowledge is on him, and it's what pushes him to get the ultimate nullifier, or however they end up beating him. But he's carrying that knowledge throughout however many films before we get to Galactus, and just a whole bunch of things. It's not. So that's the one thing, I do want it to be fun, yes, but it ain't supposed to be fun. It ain't supposed to be goofy. Okay. And so if they go into the Yancey Street gang, that'll be awesome. That's some comedy relief if you want to do that, because Ben is funny when he's all flabbergasted and all that, but that doesn't need to be the underlying tone. So, if there's a good build there and we can really see them in action and see what they do. Another thing that I focus on quite a bit, if I were writing them, is the difference between them fighting individually and fighting as a team. Because it's supposed to be, it's like musicians that play at the same time versus a band that plays together.
Right.
And so that is a dynamic too, that the Avengers are the opposite of that. They are a bunch of people with very different powers and perspectives and attitudes thrown together in a situation they had to learn how to function. The Fantastic Four should be a well-oiled machine by the time we meet them. And that would look so cool.
Yeah, if it's not an origin story, they should be like a symphony, like a perfect sync with each other. Yeah.
That's right. So I'm saying Mole Man, yes. They didn't do Mole Man. I personally love Annihilus. Same idea, lots of minions, opens up a whole new world, which is Reed's jam. That's his jam. New Worlds is his jam because they're explorers, not superheroes. He turned them into superheroes so they wouldn't be captured by the government and studied and being dissected as freaks. Okay? And the weight of that should be on him. And the humor should be covering underlying heaviness that comes along with, what have I done to my family? What have I done to my family? What have okay, well, we got to keep it moving. We got to keep it moving, because if they ever sit down and think about it long enough, they might hate me, and maybe I deserve that. He's got to be that guy. So Mole Man, Annihilus, or Red Ghost. I love Red Ghost. And here's a surprise entrance. The UFOs. The UFOs are Hulk villains.
Yeah.
I don't ever think they faced off against the FF, even in the comics. But that would be some Red Ghosts or the UFOs, because we have another country trying to do what they did. And that's the result, because that is who Red Ghost is. And so it's like, it's the evil twin thing. So we'd have to do a lot of twists, whatever. I would go with that as well.
Yeah, the twisted mirror version.
Mm-hmm.
See, I feel like that's something you want to save for maybe the second Fantastic Four movie. So you establish who Fantastic Four is, then you show their dark mirrors, and then then get to Galactus or Doom or whoever.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Everything everyone just said. I like the idea that coming out of the negative zone, and then you got let's say they went in the negative zone in the 60s. He finally gets a way out of it, puts him in 2024, but he did something wrong where these things are coming through. There's a lot there, but I agree. Ben Grimm is though a funny character. He's weird because he's upset and angry, but in the comics, he Marvel team up and things like that. He was always good for jokes every now and then, but then
he's self-deprecating.
Yeah, he's self-deprecating humor as well, but he was always kind of funny. But I get the point. There's got to be gravitas to it. It can't be goofy. It can't be Thor: Love and Thunder. We're just going to tell jokes all the time when kids are kidnapped, and that was always my issue with that. The kids have been kidnapped. Let's make more jokes. No, there's funny moments. But there's moments where you realize this could be bad. We're struggling. We're getting through. And then, let's try Swama at the end. We'll mix it up a little bit. It should be good. All right. Jumping ahead to this. Madam Web has not done that well in the box office. Surprise, surprise. So far, it's only made $50 million off an $85 million budget. All right, guys. What should Sony do next? DT.
What should Sony do next? What they should do is because Madam Web was their opportunity. I saw somebody say this on Twitter. Madam Web was their opportunity to tie together all of the Spider-Man IP. So Spider-Man in the MCU, the original Spider-Man movies, the Raimi movies, and then Garfield, and then the cartoons, and then the multiverse. Madam Web was that chance because of the nature of her powers. And if they're going to do multiverse, that was that chance. So if they're going to try to do something again, they're going to have to bring in Spider-Man to fight his villains, because only Venom is interesting enough to be featured without Spider-Man. They're going to have to put Spider-Man back front and center. But if they have control of the IP, they've got Ben Reilly. They've got Scarlet Spider. So if you don't want to use Peter, you could use Ben and contrast Ben to Peter. That would be a trip. People would come just for the spectacle of that. That's Peter Parker's clone, but he's not like Peter. People would be buzzing about that. You could bring Kane in. There's so many Spider people, so many things you could do. And then if you tied it into Across the Spider-Verse, that has a built-in audience. So what Sony needs to do next is unify their world.
All right. Here's what Sony should do. Let's just stop making the Marvel movies. Are we good? Listen, I didn't like Morbius.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
as well.
I didn't like Morbius.
Absolutely agree.
I wasn't looking forward to, not really looking forward to Craven. I did not see Madam Web, but so I can't really say too much about it, but didn't do well. Stick to the animation. Maybe put the person in charge of the animation in charge of this aspect of it. I looked through Sony's IP list to see what other things they actually have locked down that they could turn into other things, because maybe your venture into the MCU should just be when they want to make Spider-Man, and maybe that's it, or get someone else better to work on it. I'm not sure, because none of this seems to be working, and I'm not a big fan of these villain type movies anyway. Madam Web wasn't a villain. The way she was in the comics is nothing like the way they portrayed her in this. She was much older, and it's just they obviously play. Sony owns. There's so many IP with the PlayStation games. I know God of War is going to Amazon. Last of Us is already out. They own Men in Black. There's a couple other things, or go like the low budget comedy route that no one's making anymore. There's like other little avenues they may want to try to take. I just don't see this always, other than the Spider-Verse. But I do like the idea of Ben Reilly, but you have to do a little bit more with that to explain there's a clone and everything, which could work, but I'm not sure. I say just do the Spider-Man when you want to, and if Marvel comes to you and say, listen, we want to do this and this, work with them. Or do an animation universe. Stick to Spider-Verse and branch out from there, because that's the one thing that's hitting. There's plenty of other IP they could turn into some kind of blockbuster franchise if they want to. Men in Black has been touched in years. My kids don't know anything about it. There's different generations that might like it, put different people in it. You have certain things to play with. Open up the cupboards, look around. Maybe there's something else you can make. McDonald, you sort of agree?
No, I absolutely agree. If not, sell the Spider-Man rights back, because I was trying to look for. No, but I was trying to look for the total box office of all of the Spider-Man movies, and it's like it's like $5 billion over the last, how long have they had it? 30 years or whatever. So if Marvel just came to them with a Godfather offer, they're like, we'll give you $7 billion
They'd be
for
insane.
Spider-Man.
They'd be
For
insane
Spider-Man.
to do that. I would never do that.
But Sony has yet to hit that mark. They're wasting these
But
characters.
they're getting the money
So then
when they make the Spider-Man movies.
Oh, no, you're right. So instead, what they should do is, and this will make everybody happy, they should lease Spider-Man to the MCU whenever they want him.
Well, they basically do that now, but
That's what I'm saying.
That's the deal they have now, right?
I know. So I'm saying keep this deal, because they keep talking about how this deal is going to end. And once Sony cannot be trusted with a Spider-Man movie. They have to keep this deal going. And then they, because nobody, I'd hate to tell you, no one cares about the side Spider-Man characters with the exception of Venom.
If they had made this movie a Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman movie,
yeah,
Sydney Sweeney, that would have flown.
I think it could have worked.
Well, the problem with Sony movies is, the Sony Spider-Man movies is they're made by executives that I think they secretly don't understand and actually hate superhero movies.
Probably so.
They don't understand.
I think you're right about that Spider Woman thing. I think it could have worked. I know, like Sydney Sweeney,
Or Jessica Drew.
I don't watch her show, whatever it is, but I know a young generation would literally line up to go see it, and there's your money there. And I would have showed up because I would have brought my daughter to see it. And then from the video we've seen that she really likes and cares about the character, you just got to get people like, again, the people who work on the Spider-Verse. I don't know their names. Hey, listen, you're in charge of even the other medium when we do live action. Have a hand in it. You're right. That probably could have been something different, and maybe Marvel would have been on board with it. But they're going, on their own to do it. It just doesn't seem to work. I don't care about the side characters, but you're right. Not sure.
I was just going to say, when talking about what Sony should do next, I was going to say, explore their video game catalog, because they have so many titles that they could find something to make some money on, or even expand in, and just leave the superhero stuff kind of alone. And I had one thought. I was just kind of looking online, and according to what I was looking at, Sony makes more money doing video games than their music and movies combined.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if owning Spider-Man is better because of their PlayStation games, because they just released that new Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. Having the rights to Spider-Man that way might simplify them in their video games.
Okay, let me throw a couple things in here. Another thing that would have worked is if they did a Spider-Gwen movie.
Yes, you're
I think they should do that, but in the animation.
No, you could do that live action. That would have been.
I like the animation personally.
She could be enough of a draw, especially depending on who they get to play her. She could be enough of a draw to at least give that a shot. So they have at least 3 Spider-Women that they could have done besides doing this Madam Web thing.
They should have had Sydney Sweeney play Spider-Gwen.
That would
Print
work
money.
That would work too, because again, that combination would be drawing from already established audiences, so they have a better chance of making a profit. But another thing I want to throw in here is what has happened in the last 10 years, and that's called the Google effect. What has happened in Silicon Valley has now spread to other industries, and now they think that everything they do is supposed to be a killing.
Yeah.
And when you have a bar that high, and then the other thing that blew the lid off in this genre was the Avengers. The Avengers in 2012 being as big of a hit as it was, now everybody that makes superhero movies think, well, we're supposed to have that. And you're not going to have that if you don't understand what made that work in the first place. So nothing wrong with having high goals, but if you don't understand how to get there, if you don't study success, you can't duplicate it. And what they think is the brand name is enough. And the brand name is not enough. You need a brand name, you need the right casting, you need good actors, and you need a good story. So they have the tools. They have 3 different Spider-Women that they could use right now. They have it, but they don't know how to put it together. And that's like somebody having flour, eggs, and sugar, but you don't know how to make a cake.
No. And then they get surprised when people don't like the cake. I don't understand why they're not eating it. We kept the shells. They keep the shells when they're making the cake. It doesn't work. All right. That was a deep talk. It was great. A lot of Fantastic Four stuff. I'm excited about this. And I hope.
Would you say it's a fantastic conversation?
Wow, you had to pull that. It's weak. It's weak. It's such a dad joke. But
I just realized that you guys are Tony Stark and Rhodey. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, right. You know what? I've known him for 40 years. I've known him for 40 years, so yes, that's a great example. I just want to be Tony, though.
You had to make it weird, right?
Yeah, right.
I can hold my own. If you get through this, I'll hold your own. You had to make it weird. That's you guys.
You know what? That's a great point. That is what we are. We got to get that on the T-shirt, McDonald. All right. Listen, we got to jump to a building meeting, and in the building meeting, we're going to do a 2 truths and a lie. Fun segment. DT sticking around. Here we go.
But before that, we need to hear from our Unfiltered Studios sponsors.
Hey everyone, exciting news from Ancient City Designs, a haven for handcrafted treasures. Rick and Tony Rosenbaum pour their hearts into creating stunning, affordable pieces. Did you know they now have a permanent booth at Coconut Barrel in St. Augustine, an artisan market featuring over 200 local vendors? At Coconut Barrel, you can find a selection of their inventory available for sale every day. But if you're like us and not in the St. Augustine area, don't worry. They offer free shipping across the United States. Though their custom-made wonders take about 3 weeks, it's well worth the wait. Rick and Tony keep you in the loop with visuals and updates every step of the way. Returns or exchanges aren't an option, but fear not. They are dedicated to nailing your vision and ensuring your satisfaction. Located in St. Augustine, this husband-wife duo can't wait to craft something special just for you. Check out Ancient City Designs online or visit their booth at Coconut Barrel for local treasures and that special local discount. Don't miss out. Visit ancientcitydesigns.com today and discover the magic of handmade at Ancient City Designs. Be sure to tell them the Fandalorians sent you.
Oh, he's back.
That was great timing. I just finished the live read.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How long was that read?
Well, I had to do it right, Mr. Richardson.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here we go.
Come on down to the building meeting. Come on down today. There's many things to talk about. Yes, you have to stay. Urgent things to discuss. So lose that face of disgust. No, this couldn't be an email. So come on down today. Building meeting today. Oh yeah, it's the building meeting today.
JD and the Fandalorians, everybody. Building meeting jingle, always a winner. All right, guys, we're going to play two truths and a lie. Some of us are elementary school teachers. It's pretty much like this. Sometimes the first couple of days of school, you do a get to know you activity with the kids. So you have them write 3 sentences. 2 of them are true. 1 of them's a lie. And then everyone kind of guess which one's a lie. You know, I have 9-year-olds. So normally it's, I went to Splish Splash. I played with my dog this summer. I traveled to the moon. And then the kids have to figure it out because we have to teach kids how to come up with a lie that's not that off base. It's still cute and fun.
So hold on. You're just teaching students how to lie?
Yeah, that's what we do. You know what?
Yes.
That's what they do out here.
I'm
They
sure
gotta be ready.
parents around the country are thanking you.
You know what? They don't listen. The kids do. They don't listen. All right, so we're gonna do 2 truths and a lie about some of these shows that are coming up in 2024. I made a list of them. Feel free to add your own if you want to. You have House of Dragon season 2 is coming out this year. Lord of the Rings season 2. Bad Batch has just came out recently. Fallout movie. Bridgerton season 3. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Agatha Darkhold Diaries, another Marvel show. Star Wars Acolyte and Star Wars Skeleton Crew. The Boys season 4. Star Trek Discovery season 5. Daredevil Born Again. X-Men 97 animated series continuation from the classic show. Umbrella Academy season 4. The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and 3 Body Problems. These are some of the things that are coming out. We're each going to name 3. 2 we're really excited about. 1 we really can't. We really could care less about. We'll try to guess real quick which one the person thinks is terrible. And then we'll just talk about it a little bit. So, McDonald, would you like to go first?
All right. So
Name your 3 that you're excited about, and we're going to call you a lie.
I'm going to pick 3 shows. You have to tell me which one I'm lying that I'm excited about. Ready? Okay. I'm going to go Star Wars Acolyte, Daredevil Born Again, and the 3 Body Problem.
All right, I'm going to guess. This is going to be obviously tough for our guest because he doesn't know us well enough, but he might guess right. I'm going to say you're not excited about Daredevil Born Again. What do you think, DT? Based on what you've known about Mr. McDonald so far.
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think he doesn't really care about of those 3?
So which one am I lying about?
There's no way anybody could be excited about Star Wars Acolyte.
Mr. G.
I would totally say The three-body problem.
Mr.
Wow.
McDonald.
So one of you was right. Let's put it that way, because each one of you chose all three. The one that I'm not excited about right now is Daredevil Born Again.
Really?
Well, I mean, the fact that they're doing massive reshoots is never a good sign. But this hate coming from DT over here about Star Wars Acolyte. What I'm excited for Star Wars Acolyte is it's a Star Wars movie that has nothing to do with the Skywalker.
Series.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, a Star Wars series that has nothing to do with the Skywalker. And I think this is going to have to be the future of Star Wars, as nailing something that has nothing to do with a Skywalker. And so I'm hoping it's going to be really interesting. Give me something new in a universe that I think I know pretty well. Three-Body Problem, I'm super excited about because it is by the creators of Game of Thrones, and they're doing what they do best. They're adapting a book that's already very popular.
Yeah.
And
I listen, Mr. McDonald, I read that first book. It's a trilogy. I read the first Three-Body Problem. I cannot see this being a good, a faithful adaptation to the book.
Can you tell us a little bit about it, Charlie? I don't know anything about it, actually.
I can't.
No,
I can't even with this book.
Yeah, I hear it's incredibly complex. Here's the closest thing I got. All right. Hang on.
Well, let Charlie go.
Right.
He read it.
No, I want to hear what they say, what they think that, what they said that this movie is going to be about.
Here is Netflix's official synopsis. A young woman's fateful decision in 1960s China reverberates across space and time into the present day. When the laws of nature inexplicably unravel before their eyes, a close-knit group of brilliant scientists join forces with an unorthodox detective to confront the greatest threat in humanity's history.
Okay, so that is the basis of what the book is about. The way that book ended, because if I say the way the book ended, I'm going to spoil the series.
Yeah, don't spoil anything.
Is dumb. I cannot say it anymore. And I'm
just saying, I really like the way they adapted Game of Thrones. So this makes me excited for their next try.
But let me tell you though, this book was definitely heavy into the science fiction. In this book, it theorizes on why we've never actually made contact with alien species, and it explains when they talk about the breakthrough, how that it all happens.
All right, DT, I need to know why you don't care about Star Wars Acolyte. I have to know.
It's Leslie Headland's show, number one, and number two, when I hear all the stuff they're talking about doing, I agree with the idea that we need to get away from the Skywalkers, but is going to be just another version of Rey, another version of a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not interested in. It's not going to be anything new. It's just going to be not Skywalkers.
It's going to be reskinned. Same old, and a new skin.
And so the main character in the last episode is going to change their last name to Skywalker.
Oh,
it's going to be full of some kind of crap. We're going to have to buy some toilet paper to try to get through it.
Ooh, shots fired.
Here, I was it isn't on my list, but I was going to use. But I like the idea. First of all, I always hate things set in the past. Anyway, I've talked about it on this podcast before.
No, but this is super deep past where there's no.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because at the end of an episode, someone would be like, "Oh my god, that guy's going to be Yoda." I hate that stuff because those people aren't going to die. They bother me, but. Setting it in the past, no connection to Skywalkers. I'm literally in a galaxy far, far, far away. An extra far puts us somewhere else where no one is connected to anything remotely to this. We have more than one Jedi. You have more than one villain. Maybe you tell a story that I know nothing about this time period. Literally nothing about this time period. I don't even know what DT said he heard ahead of time. I know nothing. That's why I'm reasonably excited. It'll be somewhat interesting. Yeah, I wasn't excited for Andor at all. The idea was like, all right, well, I know the ending of this. I saw the movie. They were going to die. What's the big deal? Season 1 was great. It's another one of those where, okay, this was unexpected. So I'm kind of hoping the dice rolls again too. I have low expectations and I'll be blown away that they actually pulled it off. But I don't know because I hated the last season of Mandalorian. I wasn't a fan of what they did with Ahsoka in season 1. So, I don't know, but I would be a little excited about that. Not really sure. Mr. G, what's your 3?
There's actually a lot of stuff on here that I want to watch.
I know it was hard for me to find.
Yeah,
something
it's
that I
hard,
wasn't-
and like part of me, I'm like trying to pick something to kind of trip you boys up.
Yeah.
Well, and then it was even hard finding one you're just not excited about. That was like super obvious. Like for me, I
Well-
never watched Bridgerton season 1 or 2. So if I picked that, you guys would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like
No.
same with me, DT. I have zero interest in Agatha Dark, and they would know that. They would
Yeah,
know that right off the
You
bat.
would know. But
Okay,
what do you-
so
what do you
let's
come up
see.
with?
Lord of the Rings, season 2, Bridgerton, season 3, or The Boys, season 4.
Huh.
I'll go first. I'm going to say you're not excited about The Boys.
Yeah, I'm gonna say The Boys too. DT, just take The Boys. Because we know him pretty well. It's not
Is
fair.
that
He goes
group
on-
consensus that he wouldn't be excited about The Boys? Okay.
Watched the first episode of The Boys, and I was like, meh, that's it. I was not interested in
I think
that
The
at all.
Boys is super good, but okay.
I'm interested in Lord of the Rings because I don't necessarily think it's going to be good, but I'm really super curious where the story is going. Bridgerton 3, season 3. We literally talked about this in the faculty room the other day, that I'm waiting for this show to come out. But once again, I don't know if you've watched any of the Bridgerton series. You got to lower those blinds, especially if your TV is out in front of your house and the neighbors can see what you're watching. But you know which one actually I'm actually the most excited about besides Avatar: The Last Airbender that's dropping tomorrow?
Academy.
Umbrella Academy season 4. I've been waiting for this to drop. This was something, I don't know, DT, did you ever watch Umbrella Academy?
Yes.
Pat, no, you didn't watch it? This was something that someone said to me, hey, you should watch it. It's great. I really enjoyed it a lot.
They did a good job. Again, they make likable characters or hateable characters. It's like
Yes.
wrestling. If you like them, boo them, or cheer them, as long as you have some sort of reaction, you want
All
to see where the
reactions are
story
good
goes.
reactions.
Yes.
Right. They did a good job. The last season was kind of all over the place, but then again, they always
Yes.
are. And knowing this is going
Exactly.
to wrap up, we'll just wrap up, and that'll be fine too.
Yep.
So you're not excited about that, but this sound, you're on brand, Charlie. You are
Yes.
on
Totally on brand.
brand.
All right, let's hear
Um,
DT, because this
so
is going to
really
be
we
the
should have
hardest
said-
for us.
We should have said to Charlie, wow, which show are you excited about and why is it The Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well.
It's easier. All right, DC, give us your list, and we're gonna guess, even though we just met you.
Okay. You did not just meet me.
I follow you online a lot. That's true.
So you'll
I
have an
kinda might know.
advantage. You'll have
If
an
he
advantage,
chooses
Jimmy.
Star Wars Acolyte, I
Acolyte.
think I know that's the one he's not excited
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
And now he has to take it off. Now he
Yeah.
can't use it. We already know.
Can't
All
use
strategy.
that. The whole theme of the High Republic is anybody can be a Jedi. You're gonna have to get out of my face. Okay, so anyway, here's my 3. Lord of the Rings season 2, The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and Umbrella Academy season 4.
Because he was suspiciously silent when
is.
Charlie talked about both of these. Very smart.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well played, DT.
I'm
Well
going to
played.
say you're not excited about The Walking Dead.
All right. I'm gonna say he is excited about The Walking Dead. So I'm going to take. Maybe you want to see where that story goes. God, this is tough when you don't know him as well as we know each other.
Think about what does he
Um,
tweet about, Jimmy?
I'm
Which one's it?
trying. I'm
I know,
what? I'm gonna scroll back right now.
His Twitter feed
Exactly.
Pull it
right
up.
now.
Just run the feed. This is the only way. We have to cheat. All right, I'm gonna say maybe he's not excited about the Umbrella Academy season 4 because he said nothing. He might have jumped in. He jumped in quick on Acolyte, so maybe him not jumping in.
Now,
I'm gonna
I'm
take Umbrella
going to go with The Lord of the Rings because I feel like that's the outlier to the
those
other
three?
2.
Okay.
All right.
And
All right.
the answer is Dr. McCoy got it right. It's The Lord of the Rings seasons 2.
Ah,
Wow.
there we go.
Nice.
See, it's not your Lord of the Rings. A fantasy genre is not your jam.
No, I write fantasy novels. I love stuff like that. Is that what they said was that the catchphrase was, we're telling the story now. As an author, however someone defines their story world is how they define their story world. They're telling the story they want to tell. This has happened to me with choirs, which is why I know this concept well. Everybody thinks they can do it better than you. So they're going to come in after you're gone or come in after you're not involved or come in and say, no, all that's not right. It's supposed to go like this. Okay. And that's what they did with Lord of the Rings from the beginning. I don't believe in all that you know, all this race baiting and all this gender baiting and all that, because as an author, you have the power to tell the story you want to tell, and you have the power to tell it the way you want to tell it. If I want to tell a story with all Japanese people, I will. If I want to tell a story with all women, I will. If I want to tell a story with all senior citizens, I will. If I want to tell a story with all teenagers, I will. That's the power of being an author. So when someone comes in and says, all that's wrong. It ain't supposed to go like that. You didn't build near a lick of that story world.
So
Not near a lick did you build. So you're just saying it ain't supposed to be like that, and we have to adapt it for modern audiences. Yeah, but no.
So you're feeling that the constraints of Tolkien and its fandom is kind of spoiled that season 1 for you?
I feel that you have to respect an established and successful story world. And when your attitude is that that's not right, or it should go this way, there, with comics, because they're continuing things and all that, I know we have a lot of that, but anybody that reads comics knows that every run and every take on a character was not successful and not good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's because somebody came in and tore up everything that made the character popular. That's the same thing that a lot of them do in movies. They throw out everything. That character's been popular in Batman and Superman's case for 80 plus years. And they say, no, we don't need all that. Okay. So whenever that's your attitude, then it's going to be something that is almost unrecognizable from the source material.
See, I don't feel like the Lord of the Rings was too unrecognizable, because there is so much, like you talk about world building, that it is kind of hard to create something when it's same thing with Star Wars, which is some of our issues with Star Wars these days, is that we can't move past some of these ideas of, and branch out and this and that. It kind of holds us back. But like when I said, I'm interested to see where the story is going, because I want to see Nori's character, and I'm assuming it's Gandalf, because they never actually said it was Gandalf. The only assumption that it is Gandalf was that mysterious guy, the gray guy. How he becomes, I'm hoping, Gandalf. And but no, I like the choices that they made in the Lord of the Rings, the One Ring. I just didn't feel like there was enough action. There was not enough sword fighting, not enough goblins and trolls and things like that.
Well, Charles Joy is the Lord of the Rings universe. That's the world that he goes deep in, and we're just staring at him like, okay, I like
it's
they
okay.
had a story, but I get it. It for me,
that's where we
all
ISO and just stand in the corner.
So let's
I can
go
get
to
behind
this.
a lot of it, but most of it is just like, if it's a good story, I'm in. If you make me care about the character, but I understand the shifting and changing things when you don't want to. I get that. I understand the comic medium as well, because, times are changing. The kids who are growing up are trying to get into comics. You got to make some changes, because like I said, no, I didn't say yet, but like, never mind. I'm about to stumble on what I'm about to say next. But the point is, I understand how you have to make certain
spoil
changes.
your own take.
I kind of just did where I was going to go when my point when I do my list, but
So let's.
ahead,
I would just want to say, so DT, you're excited about the Umbrella Academy season 4?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I loved Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
Even though they told this exact same plot for all 3 seasons.
yes, they did.
literally
Yeah.
the same plot, but the characters and their dynamic is so interesting, and their struggles individually and as a family. And it's just weird, but it's weird in that good way.
Yeah.
I
really
unpredictable.
Pat, you should definitely watch it. It's a great series.
I'll put it on the list.
It's something
I
where
feel like I'm Captain America right now.
You know what?
Yeah.
I would definitely say, Jamie, if you could agree with me, I think Lauren would enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
I really do.
Your wife would.
And Charlie, I called you Dr. McCoy because you said, we'll cut it in, Jim. That sounded like McCoy to me. Just so you
Got
know.
it. You know what? Ready? I was thinking Hank
I'm a
McCoy, the
podcast
Beast.
host, not a doctor, Jim.
I was thinking Hank McCoy, the Beast, Dr. McCoy. I'm like, what is the Beast reference that I missed? Does he think his name is Hank? I missed it.
How could it end, Jim? I said,
That makes
Well
sense.
played.
That's
Well
perfect.
played.
I knew it was something they didn't get, so that's why I just went right past
No, he
it.
didn't-
I was
yeah,
like,
Star
that's
Trek's
got to be
my world.
something I didn't get.
If he likes Lord of the Rings that way, Star Trek is my baby. That's the thing that, I'm just spoiled on my list. So whatever. Let me just do mine because I've already said everything I like in this, so it doesn't even matter. I'm looking forward to The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, Star Trek Discovery, and Star Wars Skeleton Crew. All right, which one do I not care about, guys?
Skeleton Crew.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew. I don't care about that show.
I thought it was gonna be The Walking Dead because you kind of like, all right, I'm done with this.
He's a big. Remember, you like that.
I know
Daryl
he
Dixon
loved
one.
it. I know he
I
loved
did.
it, but I thought
I
his
like-
little flame died.
Star Wars is Star Trek, as you guys know, and people new to the podcast. That's my thing that my father sat down and watched with me, put it on the TV. We had one TV in the house. We watched Star Trek, the old series when they were in syndication. We watched Next Generation every Monday from 8 to 9 o'clock. And again, one
man.
TV. Yeah, I watch it every day with and my dad is old school military, ex-police officer, as in you sit down from 8 to 9, you don't talk or you're leaving the room. And we just sat there and said nothing. We don't eat food in this room. And then when it was over, I just simply walked out because my dad was like the dad from the Wonder Years. He was very just business that way.
Regimented.
Yeah. So now that we're older,
love
he's
him.
more
Yeah,
fun. But
absolutely. But
now he's retired. He's a lot of fun. So Star Trek is just, I talk about it with him still all the time. So that's always in
just
my
not
heart,
when the show's on.
No, but he'll call me right
Immediately
after.
after.
My favorite thing is my dad will call me right after. And did you see the episode yet? No. And then he'll start spoiling it. Like I'm like, Dad, just let me watch it. Dad. And then my mom's in the background. Get off the phone. He said he didn't see it. So much fun.
Well,
Walking
he called
Dead-
you on a landline.
That's true.
Probably still corded to the wall.
Yes. All right. Walking Dead. I was a big fan of the series. I watched all the way through. It did go kind of long, but I always felt that the 3 spinoffs, which I've watched, did a decent job as my famous phrase in On Ramp. You could kind of jump in and get into them, and you didn't really need to see too much. With Negan and Mag. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so what you're saying is what the spinoffs did is they learned what the original did wrong, and they're kind of avoiding that?
I mean, they're not that deep in yet, but it's just
At least so
they
far.
made it easier where if you didn't watch all 13 seasons, you don't really have to. Negan and Maggie's show where they end up in Manhattan, it would be nice if you knew why she hated them, but they do say it plenty of times. They do a great job where they run into someone new who kind of gets their story through them and through you. They do a good job. You could just watch it. You also have, Daryl ended up in France, which was strange that suddenly he's in France. Okay, but then throughout the series, you realize why he's in France. And since he's in France, they're speaking French around him, and you're learning through his eyes what happened there. And you just know it's some guy who's pretty tough and he made his way there. You don't need to know. Now, if you want to go back, that's fine. It's everywhere. They did a good job. Rick and Michonne, listen, I need to know how that story ends. Rick was my favorite character. When he left, I was upset he wasn't going to be on the show anymore because that's whose story I was really following the most. I just love Rick. My son stopped watching when Rick left. I finished it on my own. He was like, I'm out. I need Rick. Rick's my guy. Now we get the story that was going to be a movie. They obviously pivoted, COVID, everything, whatever. Michonne, the actress, helped write it. It looks good. I'm excited. I think it's 1 season. It might be more. It doesn't matter. I'm happy for it. That's why I'm excited about that show. I know you like Walking Dead too, DT. What are you reason why you're excited as well? That was on your positive list, right? Before I go into why I hate Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I just want to see how it ends. I mean, Walking Dead is a show that never dies, but them first 2 seasons were the golden ones for me. And you want to see how the characters end up. And, they fought so long and so hard and through so much. I watched Walking Dead, Dead City, but I hate Negan with a passion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard for me to finish because I wanted Maggie to just kind of like dissect him and feed him to the closest walker. But I understood the conflict they were trying to play there. But
it was tense. It was well done because they had to make the entire series tense between the 2 lead characters all the way through, and she can't show any sign of like giving him a hug at the end and saying thank you. That can't happen after what he did to her. You
And
know,
they were the
so, yeah.
Waynes in Snyderverse, so everybody always hopes that they would come back and do that in some form as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Bruce Wayne's
That's true.
characters, because they're good together on screen, whether they're in love or in hate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
The Walking Dead, almost unlike any other show, has so many characters that need justice. They need closure. And so I do want to see what they do with Rick.
And the reason I'm not interested in the Skeleton Crew is just the premise: 4 children lost in space, having an adventure during the Mandalorian time. Okay, I get the idea of it is to draw in new viewers who are younger. Like, my kids don't care anything about Star Wars because they weren't really into it. And I understand these kids are going to be like 14, 15, whatever. One will have like a Jedi powers. I get it. I know where this is going. And the idea to draw in the young viewership, just like Star Trek Prodigy, the cartoon, was trying to draw in. My daughter watched it. She's 13. I'm not excited about it, but I understand it's not really for me. Like my son's hip hop, it's not for me. I get it. This is definitely probably not for me. They have some actors that we would like as older people and whatever, but it's just, it feels
Well,
like
they have the world's most handsome man, Jude Law, in it.
it feels like, yeah, it feels like it's aimed towards a younger viewership. I'll probably watch it, but
Well,
I
they
can't
sold
say
it
I'm
as
excited about
Goonies
it.
in space.
Yeah, and I hated Goonies, so that's why I didn't like that movie anyway. So
Can't believe I'm friends with you.
That movie, Goonies, is the boring. I can't stand that.
Okay, if you don't know how to drive, either a stick or automatic, if you don't know how to drive and somebody puts you in a car, unless you learn the basic stuff, you're not going to be able to use all the power in that engine. Would y'all agree?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is what movie people do. They don't understand
true.
the engine. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand.
No, that's really Sony executives right there in a nutshell.
Yeah. They don't get it. And either they don't care that they don't get it, or they don't know that they don't get it, or whatever, but they don't get it. And so that's why you keep seeing these kinds of things, because like I've long said, one of my favorite examples is Predator. Predator, the first Predator, or the first two, were incredible. The first one was incredible, but Predator is a limited premise. And so you've got to go different places with it. But after a while, it's the same story. That's what Prey was. It was the same story, just a different protagonist. It's the same story because the premise is limited. And so you have to understand basic writing to understand that. And so when they do all this other stuff for Star Wars, those are people who think the brand name is the selling feature. That we just have to set something in this world, slap this tag on it.
And then print money.
Right. And the folks will come. And that is not true. That is not true. So to me, it's the lawyer from Jurassic Park, the dude that said, are those glasses heavy? Little boy said, yes, then they're expensive. Take them off. They're that guy.
I like that. That's a good one. There, I agree with you. I understand that. If you tell a good story, it's kind of like Andor, like I said before. Okay, Star Wars, Andor, I don't really care about this story. Then I heard it was a decent story. People liked it. I checked it out. I was invested. But the slapping sticker on it isn't enough. You're right, because some executives feel like, oh, we'll just call it Star Wars, or Sony, we'll just put Marvel in front of it and it'll be fine. People aren't that dumb. They were like, they like the story's not good. I don't care about the characters. I'm not invested. I know it says Star Wars. I know it says Marvel. I know it says DC. It is what it is. So I get that. So all right, I'm excited about a lot of the stuff on the list, guys, though. I really am.
Well, what I'm excited about as well, and nobody chose it as well, is House of the Dragon.
I think I'm gonna end up watching it, but I didn't even know it was coming out.
A part of me still thinks it's going to come out in 2025, but yeah, but
I
loved the
anticipating
first season of House of the Dragon.
Like Umbrella Academy, I've been actually going on Netflix checking to see if it's in that, in that hot and up and coming.
Yes.
The most actually out of all.
And it seems like none of us really care about Fallout.
No, never played the game.
I figured.
Maybe if I played the game, I'd be.
I didn't choose that one because if I picked it, you guys would be like, no, nobody cares about that.
What about you, DT? Is there anything else on this list you're interested in that you didn't really mention because you didn't put it in your 3?
I'm kind of in the middle about Daredevil Born Again because I want, it just depends on what kind of tone they take with it. If it's more of like the She-Hulk Daredevil, then no.
No, oh God, no. Yeah, no.
It's more like the original Daredevil. I think that they have underutilized their street level heroes. And so I wouldn't mind a Defender's Return. I wouldn't mind a whole bunch of stuff that they do on that level. I think it's such a great contrast.
Yes.
With cosmic level stuff like the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. So I think there's a lot that still could be mined there.
Jessica
you mean
Jones
Captain Marvel's not going to stop like a purse snatching?
No.
No.
Jessica Jones was great. So was Luke Cage.
I
didn't like
Defenders were amazing.
Who was the martial arts
Iron
one?
Fist.
That was Iron
terrible.
Fist. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're talking about Midnight Suns now, and that's another one that'll be interesting if that's done well, because that has a lot of potential too.
I watch it.
So,
Hey, stop giving away ideas for free. Get paid for it, DT.
Oh, he does. He's got stuff. He's got stuff coming.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I can't wait. All right. Did you have fun with us today?
Absolutely. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Please. And please say you will come back so we can have it recorded that you will come back when you do your other comic or anytime I call you. No, I'm just kidding. Will you come back one more time?
Yes, I will come back and definitely record a podcast with you guys again because this was great.
Thank you.
That would be great. We got to, we always do little post-observation reviews of various shows. So maybe I can get you to come on The Walking Dead one with me because no one else watches it. So maybe you can do it with me when it's over. Should be good. All right. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Where can we find you, David Taylor II? Find
me on Twitter at DT2, the number 2, DT2 Comics Chat. I'm on Twitter every day. Find me on Instagram at DT2 Author. And then my main website is davidtaylor2.net.
Thank you. Guys, I already follow him. You guys need to follow him too. I know, Mr. G, you're barely on the Twitter vehicle. You got to get in there.
Yeah, you know what? Stuff. I don't know how it all works, but I actually was on his website. I was looking at your website.
No, he's one of the ones that are set for the alert. I get a pop-up for him.
Gotcha.
And I get a pop-up because he always has good information. I didn't know what was going on. And for Brandon,
I just followed him right now.
There you go.
He'll follow us back, hopefully.
Awesome. Yes, I will.
All right. Thank you again for joining us. For Mr. McDonald and Mr. G, I am Mr. Richardson. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.